And we're going to start with a sophomore leap. And it's a guy that we've both been a fan of for a really long time. We were not surprised by his rookie season. We both had him as top five, as a top five guy on our boards during his draft class. He is a guard wing for the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets. We are talking about Egor Demin, who is a 6'10", kind of just versatile, toolsy guy. Blew the doors off of everybody's expectations with his shooting last year, which we were lucky enough to be at his pre-draft, one of his pre-draft workouts with Yegor and trainer Zach Gonzalez, and we got to see the shooting process in or progress
Yeah.
during that process. And we left higher on him after that, seeing it and what they were working on, some of the other stuff. And then at Summer League this year, it was apparent right away. It's like, this dude is too good to be here, right? He's on the too good for Summer League list for sure, because now that he has this reputation as a shooter, everybody is guarding him for the perimeter. And I thought his ability to get downhill, and then obviously, when he's attacking a tilted defense, it's like what he could do as a playmaker. But he was also still bombing threes, like with range. He looked super confident. He's certainly, if you follow Yegor on social media, he has certainly adapted to the Brooklyn lifestyle. He's aura farming out in Brooklyn all the time. So yeah, talk to me about Yegor Demin and what you kind of saw in person at Summer League this year, and what you expect from him in year two.
I think the first thing is anytime we get an opportunity to talk about Yegor, we're going to be excited. And this is a guy that, to your point, Corey, it feels like we bought in on him earlier than most. And to see his development and to see that last point you made about his confidence is something that really kind of pops when you see him in person. I think it's a couple of things. I think number one, he is fully adjusted to the NBA game and the speed of the NBA game. I think that's number one. I think number two, he's developed physically. And
Mm,
that's a real thing. He's filled out his frame. I'm not saying he's ripped out of his mind, but he has added to his frame, which is important. And I think
big
those
time.
things combined, and obviously the growth and development of his outside jumper, has really brought this confidence to his game. And watching him at Summer League, it did feel like he was head and shoulders above, the other guys that he was playing with. His ability, obviously, he's always had this, but ability to read the floor, to read the defense, and now him having more of that magnetism, right, where the defense is tilting over to him and his jumper and worried about him coming off of ball screens and him catching and shooting and all that stuff. Um, it made him extremely dangerous. And that combination of confidence and now growth in his ability makes him terrifying. And the thing that I really, really wanted to talk about and to give the Nets a credit for is I thought them drafting Michael Brown Jr.
Mm,
was the absolute perfect pick, and on a lot of different levels. Number one, I think Yegor is going to thrive as a 1B number two option. I think that is a great opportunity for him in terms of like creation, right? Obviously, Yegor is a great passer, but he's also not like the greatest handle, whatever, right? Having a guy like Michael to eventually be really that offensive engine. But the beauty of Michael is also Michael doesn't have to have the ball in his hands all the
right.
time to thrive. He's so good at, catching and shooting, moving off the ball, doing stuff on the floor to stay a part of the offense, and him being such an intelligent player. The Nets are really cooking here because both guys are such smart basketball players, and having two high IQ players with the ability that they have to be your building blocks of a young roster with the other smart guys that they have too in a Ben Saraf and Traore, and we'll continue to see Danny Wolf's development as well. I'm
Hmm.
not sure, but they have a lot of these high IQ guys. The one guy that we walked away really disappointed by was Drake Powell, and he's the one that kind of leaves you kind of scratching your head a little bit. But all the other guys, you can see them being a part of this and this young nucleus that they're growing and building out here. And you know what? Even for a Drake Powell, if he's their number seven guy, number eight guy, it's fine. I think they can work it out. But with Yegor, his growth and confidence and his ability is terrifying. And I think he's going to be an incredible partner next to Michael. So if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, you're through the moon right now. Like the team, you can finally start to understand what they're building here because of those two guys and the type of offense that they're going to run under Jordy Fernandez.
Yeah, I like you said, they complement each other so well, um, because Mikel's also super explosive, and his ability to get downhill and create looks for a guy like Yegor as well, who can catch and shoot and then do stuff off movement. You know, you can run Yegor off that weak side, off hammers and stuff like that, and get him looks. And he'll be comfortable shooting in those situations. I think is going to be great for him. And you know, I think the difference between Mikel and look, he hasn't played a real NBA game yet. You know, he's certainly going to go through his rookie struggles, and he's going to be wild, and it's going to look crazy at times, and that's fine. The Nets are in a spot with these two where letting them get these reps under Jordy is going to be, you know, fantastic for their development, and just all these minutes that they're getting is going to be great. But uh, uh, you're going to get a guy who I think is just a little bit um, more respected in Michael Brown than, you know, Traore and Saraf were. You know, this is a guy who, you know, has the pedigree and, you know, is went in, you know, in the top 10 of a really loaded draft. And when he catches fire, it's going to be, you know, really hard to stop. And on those nights where they both are like kind of bombing because they're both super high level, you know, 3-point takers, you know, not just makers, but like they're going to be games where I think both of them are just raining threes together. And that's going to open up stuff. I think like you're going to see like Dayron Sharp as a guy who's going to have a big year this year. And when you have the spacing for them, I think Yegor is going to be able to utilize that and efficiently kind of get guys like Dayron, you know, some looks. And Dayron's been a guy who, you know, I think, you know, they move Claxton. He's going to have an opportunity to step in there into that big role. I kind of like what the Nets are building organically here, which they've never really done in their time in Brooklyn. They've always gone for these, you know, home run trades, you know, that whether it was, you know, Darren Williams, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, you know, then they get the signings of KD and Kyrie. They've never built organically, you know, since they've moved to Brooklyn from Jersey. And now they're finally doing it. And I think that it's really going to be helpful not only, you know, for these guys to kind of grow up and develop together over the long run, but I think it's going to be great for Brooklyn as a franchise because, you know, I went to a Liberty game recently and that place was rocking. Like when, you know, if you can really build out that Brooklyn fan base to be as passionate as those Liberty fans, you know, like that is a really cool arena. And I think that Yegor is, we're going to look back and he was kind of the foundation of this next step in what they're doing. And, you know, we'll look back at those videos from the Nets on YouTube where we saw their process and they were looking for these multi-skilled, versatile guys who could play 16 games. And I think Yegor gets there because defensively, you know, I don't think he's going to be a Kawhi level stopper or anything, but like he's disruptive as a, you know, in the passing lanes and as a, you know, sometimes as a shot blocker. And like you look at him getting stronger, like you mentioned earlier, and like, you know, he's not going to be somebody who guys are going to be able to bully, especially as he continues on that trajectory. So I'm really excited for Yegor's year two. And I think all of those pieces surrounding him are going to help him take a really cool leap. And if what we saw in summer league with the confidence, with his ability to feel much more comfortable attacking as a ball handler, then I'm excited.
And one really last thing for me is like one of the other reasons why we were so high on Yegor in the draft process was because he's huge. Like this is
Yeah.
a gigantic guy. He's like
Yeah.
6'8", 6'9", right? And
Well,
the fact that
he's 6'9" he measured like in shoes at 6'9". So like he's right around 6'10", you know?
yeah. So as a 6'10" guy who can do the stuff that he can do offensively, even on defense, if he can be run of the mill with him continuing to grow into his frame, he's 6'10". And he moves well for a guy who's that size. He genuinely moves like a wing. So there's a lot to be excited about. Like the floor of him defensively is what gets me excited more than anything else.